Yeah, I'm wondering why the chat's gone a bit.
This week's podcast is sponsored by the Bowers & Wilkins Zeppelin Wireless Smart Speaker. Reimagined for the streaming age, its elegant form combines high-resolution stereo sound with a comprehensive range of smart connected features and services, including Alexa built-in. Experience the sound for yourself at authorised retailers like John Lewis, or learn more at bowerswilkins.com.
Hello and welcome to the AV Forums Movies podcast, streaming live on Wednesday, the 3rd of November, 2021. It's a podcast where we discuss movies and TV through the prism of AV. I'm Cas Harlow, and joining me are Mark Costello.
Bonjour, mes amis.
And Simon Crust.
Ni hao.
Nice.
Nice.
We didn't practice that at all.
No.
with the Seventh Seal, BFI's first 4K disc out this week, we're going to be discussing some of the best world cinema foreign language releases available on 4K and Blu-ray. But first, we've got to talk OLED. We all know that OLED's the best TV display for movie fans.
Yes, it is.
And this month you have the opportunity to judge which is the best OLED TV thanks to Philips. And at the same time, you get the chance to win a 65-inch OLED 936 TV, a 1 in 30 chance to walk away with a new OLED TV. 30 AV Forums members will be given the chance to judge a totally blind shootout with 4 of the best OLED TVs on the market. The first part will be calibrated settings, with the TVs calibrated by Phil and Steve from AV Forums. The testing will be independently verified in terms of settings used. And best of all, this is all taking place at Abbey Road Studios in London on the 16th of November. To apply, to take part, look up the post on the homepage where you'll find the email address to use. Good luck. We hope to see you on the night.
Absolutely. That'll be a great event. Really, really good.
I think they've run a couple before, haven't they, Sam?
Yeah, there was one a couple of years ago. I didn't get to that one, but I have been to a few events in the past, and they're always terrific. They're always well attended, and you meet the forum members, and you know, they're all a great bunch because we've all got a common interest. So you've always got something to talk about. So it's absolutely worth going.
Curse me not living in London.
Yeah, me too. Whenever I get IMAX tickets, it's for London, like it's next door to me. Hey, you're in the south. You're near IMAX London. Anyway, let's take a quick look through our competitions, Mark.
Thank you very much, Kaz. Well, as ever, we've got a raft of disc-based competitions, but at this moment in time, we've got a huge amount of hardware comps where you can still win a KEF LS50 Wireless 2 all-in-one speaker system worth $2,500, and it's still an amazing prize. You can win a pair of Monitor Audio's Silver 50 7G speakers worth £575. You can win a free Poke React soundbar with Alexa built-in worth £249. You can win a Violet Smart Switch worth £169, and one of 5 sets of Yamaha's TW-E3B True Wireless earphones worth £109 each. In addition, you can win a James Bond No Time to Die micro scale electric set worth £60. Tom has probably entered that competition at least 400 times. He's desperate for that. And finally, well over a dozen 4K and Blu-ray sets to give away, including the £50 limited collector's edition 4K sets for the guest and the outsiders, and patron exclusive access to Criterion's October and November titles, and the Guns of Navarone tomato on 4K. So head over to avforums.com/competitions to enter. All competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK.
Nice.
Very nice prizes there.
Lovely prizes.
And that's not everything. You got to check out the competitions page. That's just a sample of them.
A soupçon, if you will.
Yep. We're going to be doing that today, aren't we? Yeah. Previous winners. Crossbow won The Power on Blu-ray. These are all Blu-ray winners. Bring Back Vinyl won Beelzebub. Tozur won Terrified. Garrett won Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms. Phileas won American Gods Season 3. Stephen won Earwig and the Witch. Sam V0808 won Mr. Klein. And Nathan won Monstrum.
Some excellent films there.
Excellent. Like 80% of them are from your lists, Mark.
Oh, who'd have thought?
Yeah. So stay tuned to win for a podcast exclusive competition to win a copy of Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece Kagemusha on Blu-ray. And next we have the feature presentation.
If you enjoy the podcast on YouTube, then please like and subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, then please leave us a rating on your podcast app. We invite you to email questions and feedback to podcast@avforums.com and join in with this episode's discussion thread in the podcasts forum at AV Forums.
Right, before we do our feature presentation, I've just got to do a shout out to a couple of new patrons, Simon Leeper and Sam Vincent.
Welcome and thank you.
Yes, you've made our nights. It was very kind of you to join this club. We've got plenty of exclusive competitions. I think there are very few UK based. Will preface that because I know some of you very kind patrons have joined from abroad, but very few UK based patrons who haven't got some kind of juicy prize in there. It's well worth joining, and it's really nice to have you on board. We have a listener question, so we'll try not to forget about the answers when we come back and talk about it later. But the question is, what foreign language movie would you like to see given the full 4K treatment? And you could probably get in there and say, what foreign language movie would you like to see given a Blu-ray release, given some of them aren't even off DVD. But
steady, save it.
Yes,
I'll save it.
I'm saving it.
The rant comes later.
Yeah, all right. So, Simon, since you're the only one who's actually seen Seventh Seal, let alone seen it in 4K,
right? Okay.
What's the 4K like?
Let's preface that I'm not the only person in the world to have seen Seventh Seal.
No, the only one of us. I mean, the only one of us three, which is ridiculous.
Well, surely if we've seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, we've seen it, right? Haven't we?
Just going to steal all my jokes here. It's
just teeny tiny bit, maybe. Oh, you've seen the influence that it's had over the cinematic universe as 1957 when it was first made. How's that?
Yeah,
all right, maybe. Fair enough.
Yes, bottom line is it better than Bogus Journey?
Well, it's a very different film, isn't it? Can you compare an apple and an orange?
Yes.
Yes. One's orange and one's an apple. Moving on. Here we are. This is the disc we're talking about and the inspiration for this particular podcast. The Seventh Seal by Ingmar Bergman, made in 1957. Interestingly, this is not the first disc, not the first time I've owned this disc. This is this particular version here is the first time I bought it. This is Criterion's first release, spine number 11. You can see it on the bottom there. So it's one of their first releases. I think I might have owned it on DVD as well, going back in the mists of time. I forget now. But it's a hugely influential film, very, very dark and dour, but also shot through with hope. So this is the old version, and this is the new version. The review that I've done for it isn't live yet, and I do actually compare these two discs. I don't normally compare because who really cares about the old version? You're only really interested in the new version. But I thought it might be interesting because Criterion are known as to be the very best, and BFI being the English Criterion. Can you call them that?
Yeah, I think that's best.
Yeah, maybe. Have taken interestingly, they've taken a scan that Criterion did in 2018 as the basis for their 4K release, of which this one is here. It's a native 4K picture, and I have to say it is absolutely amazing.
Nice.
Amazing. For a film of this age and this ilk, the restoration work is second to none. The resolution of the image, you can see things that are impossible to see on this one. The opening scene, when you're looking down on the beach and you can see the rock layers, and you can see splashes of the waves, you can see rocks in the thing. You can you can look at the rear of the horses and they're muscular. Not that I'm really into horses. I might have said that before.
But revealing his kinks here.
The chain wear, the carvings in the chessboard. It's unbelievable. And what makes it even better, it's a Dolby Vision disc. Is the grayscale is out of this world. There is so much more to see in this disc than in this one, and I would wager the 2018 one as well. I haven't seen the 2018 disc, but I'll wager it's streaks ahead. It's amazing. There is so much more going on in the details. The image is out of this world. I gave it a 10 out of 10 because there's absolutely no doubt about it. Did I give it a 10? I might actually give it a 9 because there's a couple of little bits. We'll have to wait and see when that goes live. Write in on the review and let me know if I was right or wrong. Sound on the disc is LPCM mono. You can't expect a great deal from that. It's okay. It's clean. It's tidy. No distortion. No hiss. It's audible, and it's fine. But the real winning part of this disc, the picture, and the film, of course. I mean, the film is a masterpiece. You know, hugely influential, as we've alluded to. Strangely contradictory in that it's a very, very dark, dour, almost depressing kind of movie in its thematic walk through life and the Black Plague and religious fervor. But equally, it's got a shot through of hope in it as well. And I love it. It's fantastic. And this disc, if you've never seen it, this is the one to get. Absolutely. And if you have seen it, get it anyway, because it's absolutely worth it.
The thing is, and I've noticed this more and more recently, you know, they talk about 4K reaching the end of its limit and whether or not we'll shift to streaming. And you come across new releases, brand new movies that come out on the formats. And I appreciate they're good. And sometimes they're reference. But the ones that really, really consistently show me what the format can do are the classics. You pull out an old classic on there, you stick on, I don't know, I watched 2001 the other day.
That's a great picture.
But I mean, it's crazy. It's like I'm watching 2001 and I'm more in awe of that than when you stick on the disc to, I don't know, Black Widow. It's just, it's I get that it shouldn't necessarily be that way, but but it is these classics a bit, when they're given good treatment, it's really nice.
I mean, totally. I mean, interesting enough, things like, you know, you hear so often, don't you? Well, it's black and white film. Well, you know, everyone keeps saying the benefit of 4K isn't about the resolution. It's about, you know, the HDR and the wide color gamut. What does that add to a black and white film? Well, I think Simon's just articulated it perfectly.
It's
much that it can bring.
It gives you real blacks, loads of shadows detail, and much, much more in the highlights. I think in the review I mentioned a little bit about the old one, how when you look at the in the opening scenes, there's pictures of the sunrise, and the 1080, it's just like a white massive blob, you know. Whereas in this 4K version, it's pristine, bright and beautiful. It's nice. no question. If you only own it on DVD, as one of the Faison says in the chat there, this, you haven't seen the film. This is the version.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. It's the nice thing about even films you've seen, rediscovering them when they've been given good treatments and new lease of life.
Off I toddled to Amazon to spend more money.
Yeah, I know. I'd see.
Damn you!
This is just not fair. So the question is, guys, what brought us all into world cinema? What was the foreign film that really got you hooked? So Mark, give us your where did you come from into foreign cinema?
Ooh, well, one of my first jobs, shall we say? In fact, it was my first job after uni. I worked at Blockbuster Video. Nice. Yes, it may be a cliche, but oh man, I look back so fondly at those days. Anyway, enough of all that reminiscing. One Friday, you know, it was I got my 5 free rentals for the week. What was I going to pick? And I'd heard a lot about this Japanese horror film. I'll give it a go. There you go. Reached down, got the old VHS tape off the off the bottom shelf, out I walked with it. Sat down that night, and frankly, I absolutely crapped myself for about
because it was a VHS,
100 minutes.
Because it was a VHS.
That film,
answers on a postcard what this film is.
yes, that film was Hideo Nakata's Ringu, and yes, watching it on a VHS, I mean, mind blown. You know, it was something else. But of course, at that point, coincided. When was that? It was around sort of 99, 2000. It coincides with the big boom in DVD and the home media, and of course, then you started to get those specialist labels spring up. So again, Ringu had, I think it was Tartan and Tartan Extreme. You had things like Hong Kong Legends, and very, very, very soon after that, I fell down that rabbit hole, picking up everything. The more extreme, the better. Ichi the Killer, the story of Ricky. You know, from Hong Kong Legends, it was things like Iron Monkey and New Dragon's Gate in, and it basically escalated from there. But it was Ringu on VHS. Man, that was something else.
Did you immediately go out and phone a friend?
I immediately went out after the film finished.
I immediately went out and took a copy of it, of course, and tried to make, oh, Mum, watch this.
I still don't get that. I still don't get why, of all the people. Anyway, I'm just
spoilers.
I'm not gonna go there. Simon, how did it start for you?
When this question was posited, I found it really difficult to think back. The older I get, the more stuff I learn, the more I find it pushes out stuff that I used to know. So I'm forgetting a lot of stuff. But the more I think about it, I mean, I'm pretty sure that the Hidden Fortress was there. That's Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, because I knew it was based, or Star Wars was based on it, and I was a big fan of Star Wars. That was one of it. Again, like you, I did fall into the Asian horror things like Audition and Dark Water, The Eye, and then you've got, you know, do you pronounce his name? Mikey?
Takashi
Miike. Okay. You know, there we go. It's the old brain thing again. You know, Visit to Ichi the Killer, all that kind of stuff. But I find it very difficult to pinpoint one film. I think if I really pushed myself, I think I would probably have to go to again a VHS version of John Woo's Hard Boiled.
Nice.
I think that might have been it.
What a start!
I think so. And once I'd seen that, you think, oh my God, this John Woo bloke, it's amazing. And then I was collecting all this stuff, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit later. just maybe it might come up a little bit later.
Yeah. Someone send him to Hollywood. Who knows what he could do there?
I'll tell you what. I had a similar kind of thing with Kurosawa, but it went the wrong way for me. So my dad decided to show me a 3.5 hour black and white samurai movie where nothing happens. I mean, one of the for me now best scenes in the film involves a samurai hearing that there are some snipers in the woods and just walking off into the woods and coming back later with 2 rifles and then sitting down and going to sleep. And it's an absolutely tremendous scene. But when
in the rain,
when you're a kid, you're sitting there going, what happened there? You know, why? So I got shown Seven Samurai at an age when I wasn't ready to watch a black and white samurai film. I had, give me Magnificent Seven, give me RoboCop. You know, I was not in the right frame of mind. It took a few years, and I will say Hard Boiled was a big influence, but probably the one that really changed it for me was Takashi Kitano. I watched Sonatine my teenage years, and I just thought it was phenomenal, absolutely tremendous. And to this day, I think he's wildly underrated, particularly in the West, and very hard to like get a hold of decent releases from him. And he keeps getting lumbered with bit parts in Hollywood movies. But I think he's phenomenal and very, very, specific in his style of poetry, comedy, visual style, and wonderful balletic violence. It'll just explode into violence.
It does, yeah. It just suddenly happens. Violent Cop is a terrific example of that. When he's walking on the street and all of a sudden, oh my God, what the
yeah.
This is why we're here.
And it was a different style to me because watching him, this beat Takashi Kitano, and he came from comedy. And when he started, watching him in a movie was very different from anything he'd ever seen before. Because when he gets into a gunfight, he didn't suddenly duck down and then shoot blindly. He didn't have two guns. He didn't slide down banisters or anything like that. He just stood there, front on, with his gun pointed out, shooting. And it was just, who got hit first. He had there wasn't even a hint of pulling back from it. It was just, well, if he was going to get hit, he was going to get hit. It was a very different style, and I loved the guy. But as we'll probably come on to later, not being given great treatment. Third Window went knee deep into his back catalogue. Third Window Films, if you want to look up some Takashi Kitano, they've covered a lot of his slightly more left field titles, but they've got some winners in there. It's really good. But some of my favorite films from him still haven't got UK releases, including his latest ones, where I think they only released the first of the 3 on Blu-ray. But that's where it all began. But let's turn to the positive side to it all, because I have to say that, thinking about how foreign films get treated in the UK and the US is sad, but there are some really nice releases out there.
Yes, there are.
Let's investigate the noteworthy 4K releases. Simon, I need you to flood my screen.
I mean, there are some good releases, but come on. Okay, so now then, what do I? I've got a selection here. Not all I have, but just a few of the 4K ones. Ones that I actually reviewed. That I will mention quickly. I mean, the sad thing is, for a foreign language film to become noticed or get a big release, it has to win something at an awards ceremony. It has to be noticed, and that's the biggest problem. So something like Parasite here, which won Best Picture, suddenly is given a 4K release.
Yeah,
and that's great, but which we'll probably talk about later. What about some of the smaller releases? And this is a fantastic image, actually, really well looked after. Good bit of sound on that. Another one that I looked at a couple of years ago. This one here, Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes,
nice.
This one's particular one's an upscale. Still looks very good though. The HDR on it gives it the real pop. But another fantastic film. Guillermo del Toro, he poured his heart and soul into this film. It was his opus, and you can see that. You can see his enthusiasm and his energy for the film. It just pours out of the screen, and particularly in this 4K version, it's a good transfer. And I'll just mention one more, if I may. I didn't review this one. I think you looked at this one, Kaz, didn't you?
I did.
I think Mark did. Yeah.
Did you look at that one, Mark?
I did. So,
Kurosawa. I mean, again, we'll probably talk about it later because I've got a lot of Kurosawa stuff, and I love his films. I really do. Seven Samurai is one of my most favorite films of all time. Ran is image-wise beautiful. Sound-wise, it's okay. It's picturesque. Every scene is like a painting. It's wonderful. But as a Kurosawa film, apart from that middle battle scene when they're taking the third castle, which is beautifully picturesque. They eliminate all the sound, just the music and all the gore and the heartache and the terror going on. I mean, that's wonderfully evocative. But I don't think it's one of his best. I know a lot of people love it, but for me personally, it doesn't do much for me. But it got a 4K release, which is only a good thing. What did you think about that one, Mark? I can't remember what you wrote
Yeah,
about it. Did you love it?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I'm with you, Simon. I as a film, it doesn't recover from that midpoint battle scene. It's so epic, you know, to peak with that and then to go back into, you know, people talking in rooms again. You kind of feel a bit, oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's still, like I say, it's epic. It's gorgeous to look at. Not his best for me too. The disc again, for me. Now, I had the 2016 1080p release, which that's based off the same restoration. And I did some similar comparisons to you. And I have to admit, the uptick in detail and the addition of the wide color gamut HDR didn't really add a huge amount over that 2016. So I think I mentioned it in the review that if you already have that, because the discs are completely identical in terms of the soundtrack options, the extras. In fact, the Blu-ray edition in the 4K set is the old 2016 disc. You know, as an upgrade, I think if I hadn't been sent it to review, I don't think I'd have bothered to pick it up, if I'm honest, because uptick in picture quality isn't massive. Ooh, sorry.
Okay. What we do.
It's what we do.
Yes, it is.
What would you pick, Mark?
So for me,
ran in 4K. It's top of your list.
Strangely, no. I am going to talk about feeding on from what sort of fueled my interest in world cinema. Now, that notion of extreme cinema. You had to go outside of the UK, outside of the US to get that fix for what's pushing the envelope. And back in 2000, the film came out that really crested the wave of being problematic, shall we say. This is the year after Columbine. And of course, the film we're talking about is Battle Royale.
Oh,
you know, now as a film, talk about this. Nice side. You know, as a film, its title has entered the lexicon. You know, we play. My daughter plays video games now. Battle Royale mode. It entered the lexicon. You know, it's influenced everything from you know, I mean, God, no Battle Royale, no Hunger Games, which, you know,
no Squid Games
might be a good thing. Squid Games, you know, all that kind of stuff. But you know, looking back at it, it had its origins, didn't it? You know, people hunting people. Cinematically, you'd got The Most Dangerous Game. You've got Lord of the Flies. You know, turning it. No,
the greatest of all of them.
Ironically, the one I'm going to mention is The Running Man. So if you combine Lord of the Flies and The Running Man, you get Battle Royale. You know, and it was from Kinji Fukasaku. It was his final full film, I think. This is a 70-year-old veteran who'd spent his career doing hardcore Yakuza films. But he put everything into this, all his feelings about he grew up during the war and his thoughts about the impacts of war and oppression on the young. And he channeled it into this brutal, I mean, it was brutal. I mean, it's brutal now. Forget brutal, you know, 21 years ago. It's brutal now. These are kids mercilessly killing each other, you know, with wanton glee and abandon. But, and I found this with so many of world cinema, it's shot through with other elements and other genres. So you've got that massive dose of satire provided by Mr. Harlow, you know, Takashi Kitano himself. You've got things like the on-screen graphics referring to child number 17. You know, there's an edge to it which it doesn't soften the violence, but it almost like enhances it somehow to turn it into something else. You know, and for me as a film, it's immense. As a release, so this is, I think it was last year's, was it earlier this year? This year, it was Arrow's 4K UHD edition, which, you know, you get 2 4K discs in this with the 2 cuts of the first film. You get 2 Blu-rays of Battle Royale 2 with the 2 different cuts of Battle Royale 2 in there. You've got a disc of, you've got a soundtrack. You've got, I'm not going to take it out because it'll all fall everywhere. You've got top trump cards in here are the kids. I'm going to play that with my daughter at some point. Top trumps around child death. Come on. And there's a hardback book in it, you know. And I know that Arrow, I think, are re-releasing this in a standard edition. I think is just the first film. But they did such a good job of this. There was problematic transfer on the tartan set. I know they did quite well with the previous Arrow version, but it really does scrub up something proper in 4K. So that's my first pick.
I really appreciate the Battle Royale set. I reviewed that, and yeah, I think it still holds up despite everything that has come since.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, he only got to shoot, I think, about 10 minutes of the second movie before he died, and I think he passed it to his son.
Yeah, his son finished
he completed it. So there's some kind of legacy. I know the second one isn't as good as the first one, but yeah, it's a very nice set.
Well, at least it's in there, and like you say, not just thrown in as an extra, if you like. You get 2 cuts of it as well. So yeah, sumptuous set from Arrow, superb. So my next one, I'm nipping over to France. So it's 1970. The French New Wave has come and is going. Truffaut, Godard, experimentalism, existentialism. My God, I can't even say it. But right in the crest of that was Jean-Pierre Melville, and he'd done 2 absolute gangster, cool films, if you like, at that point, with Le Samurai and Army of Shadows. But he reached his pinnacle with Le Cercle. Here we go. Le Cercle Rouge. Le Cercle. I don't even know what that is. The red circle.
The red circle, yeah.
Quite frankly. And it is absolutely sublime. And for me, people talk about a boot soup and all this kind of stuff, but all of that stuff tried too hard. This just went, do you know what? I love American films. So this was a French film doing an impression of an American film, doing an impression of a French film. And it wallowed in the detail, but not the detail that you would think. So it's a heist movie at heart. So rather than traditionally, you spend a lot of time knowing the gangs, the planning and all that. None of that. You are straight into the heist, after you've met the characters. But the heist it's almost like the heist in Rafifi, the detail that it goes into, the detail around how the characters meet, and it's through things like that it has this dose of something almost mythical. The title of it comes from an opening quote by Buddha, for goodness sake, talking about the meaning of destiny and fate. And so again, it shoots through that very traditional gangster cool, but with something just a little bit more. And of course, it's Alain Delon, in a trench coat and a trilby, which quite frankly doesn't get any cooler than that. Great release from Studio Canal here. Controversial when it was released, because as with a lot of these new releases, when they did it, they've swapped out the color palette. They've gone for something a lot warmer in this version than in previous releases. Had a lot of people up in arms about it. They didn't like the change in the color from the previous release, but I have to say, taken on its own, I think this is an absolute stellar image, and the rest of the disc is pretty special as well. So there you go. That's France. And finally, we're heading back east. We're heading back east because, of course, world cinema, as we'll come on to, famous for a number of its brilliant box sets. And for me, you don't get much better than Criterion's Lone Wolf and Cub. These 6 films, well, 7 if you include the infamous Shogun Assassin,
Yes.
Made between 1972 and 1974, and it's exactly as you would imagine. It's a ronin feudal Japan's countryside with his 3-year-old in tow in a Bond-esque baby car.
Yeah, gadget laden, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it? Across the 6 films, it doubles as armor. It's a weapons rack. Hell, it's even a sledge in the final film. But it's awesome because it's got all that, insane violence. The geezers of blood spurting everywhere. You've got the funky guitar soundtracks. But oddly enough, you've got some real heart between this father and son dynamic. There's a scene in the first film where the father offers this small child, do you want a sword or a ball? In essence, he's asking this small child to choose his fate. And we know that if he chooses the ball, the father's going to kill the son to send him to be with his mother in the afterlife. And this kid chooses the sword. And it sounds insane when you describe it, but when you see the look on the father's face, it's almost like, hang on, this is a Japanese samurai film and I'm welling up here. But they're just awesome. You got the 6 films in there, like you say, this set here, UK Criterion, it does include Shogun Assassin, which infamously was made up of, I think it was 12 minutes of the first film, Sword of Vengeance, and the rest of the second film, which was baby cart at the River Styx, with some added voiceover and all that kind of stuff. So you've got the 7 films in the set. All of them come from 2K restorations, so the original camera negative. You've got a host of extras about them, about the literature that it was all based on, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful set. I mean, it's, you know, as usual with Criterion, I can't even get the stuff out now. You know, the artwork is fantastic. You know, look at some of this. The booklets in it are absolutely superb. You know, detail about all the films. It's a wonderful, wonderful set.
No floating heads, no sail.
No floating heads, exactly. So for me, those 3 are probably my favorite releases of world cinema so far.
Yeah, well, I can't trump this, guys. I mean, if I were
that was the plan.
Yeah, I think that's it. You just burnt through everything. If I were to say anything, I would say that Criterion's treatment of foreign cinema has been absolutely tremendous. And you know, they've done so many fabulous Kurosawa sets. I think I
Would you like to talk through them while I show them?
Yeah, have you got the Yojimbo Sanjiro set?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't go anywhere without that, can you?
I have to say that probably had pride of place on my mantelpiece for a great many years. I absolutely love those 2 films. I know that Seven Samurai is the better film, and I know that Yojimbo and Sanjiro, I mean, Yojimbo in particular has been done countless times.
Absolutely.
Fistful of Dollars. It was done in that Last Man Standing, and it was done in some film with Van Damme in the desert heat. You know, it's been done a lot of times. Okay, I mean, hell, they even cribbed a bit of it for License to Kill. The premise of setting 2 sides off against each other from working within is, I mean, it's timeless now. But Yojimbo was just fabulous.
Awesome film.
The Criterion sets for that for great, and I'm really hoping now Criterion's onto 4K.
They might start doing it. It'll be lovely,
you know,
wouldn't it?
They love a good Kurosawa.
Yeah, they do.
And
I mean, I've got
Seven Samurai there as well.
Samurai here. This is Pride of Mums, isn't it? Spine number 2. This one. So it's certainly one of the. I mean, I know I had this one on DVD, and as soon as it came on to Blu-ray, I ditched that and got this straight away because it's a stunning film, and a glorious set with a massive. I think that book is with all the writings on it, and the 2 discs. Oh, it's just beautiful.
Quality,
beautiful.
I think
stuff.
I don't know whether I'm going to fish them all out or whether I'm going to steal myself for 4K, because it's got to be coming. It's got to be coming. Hidden Fortress, yes.
Hidden Fortress, of course.
I will say, and it was asked in the chat, is Kagemusha on 4K? It isn't. I mean, the prize we're giving away is Blu-ray. It's not available in 4K. I think the only Kurosawa is Ran at the moment.
Yeah.
For my money, I would pick Kagemusha over Ran. I think that of all of his slightly lesser known samurai movies, I really like Kagemusha. I've got a lot of time for that. So yeah, I think it's you know, it is criminal that they haven't done more on 4K, but I still have hope, particularly as you say, you know, it's Criterion's kind of thing to do lots of Kurosawa.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the next step. But I do want to do a shout out to Korean cinema, and again, that was mentioned in the chat by Irfan Ali. He said Korean films are so good. His choice of foreign films. Korean cinema really came out of nowhere. I think in the 90s, there was a massive influx of money into making Korean cinema and showing Korean cinema in Korea. And there was there were limits to, well, I mean, this happens in a lot of foreign countries, but limits to how many foreign films you could show and what kind of percentage returns you took. And so there was a big push to make lots and lots of Korean films, and there's some great ones. I mean, we're only just catching up, and I still haven't seen. I think there's recently a decent Arrow release of Joint Security, JSA.
Yeah.
And there's another few, one with the guy I want to talk about, which is Choi Min-sik, Old Boy himself. So that's my choice of 4K. Thank you. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Old boy himself in 4K.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble with Arrow for me, I think if I wanted to be a bit critical, it was the fact that they did a lot of this on Blu-ray, remastered it, made it look fantastic. Hey, we've got a new 4K restoration. And then within months, it wasn't even like a year, 2 later, it was within months, they were like, oh, and here's the 4K.
Yeah.
Which was quite a tough ride for Old Boy. And I think also Battle Royale, those were two, you know. The flip side to that is I will say that I preferred them holding on to it because then they did a decent job with the 4K. Whereas I think we talked about before, Arrow's Waterworld versus I think it was Universal's Waterworld 4K. So I prefer it when Arrow hold on to it and do both. But I remember checking out the 4K of Old Boy and it looks fabulous. And they've done a tremendous job. It's not exactly a high budget film, but it shows just what Korea was doing. And they were doing, and again, a different flavor of movie. And it's very stylish, very dark, but also quite witty, very electric vibe to it. Really, by the end, you were pot committed to this complete twist of a story and introduce the world to Choi Min-sik. And I would say that's probably my 4K choice. So there are a lot that have been given decent treatment. Are we going to talk a little bit about the ones we really want to be seen given decent treatment? Because I can see all those DVDs you've got, Simon. You know, I mean, so I would say that Woo's got to be the one that I think has been done a disservice.
Absolutely.
Not even, there's no 4K, but there are precious.
There's no Blu-rays, are there?
Yeah, decent Blu-rays.
It's terrible.
You know, where's my Broken Arrow Blu-ray? It's just
it's in the bin.
Yeah. I don't think it never existed. Woo is brilliant. The one disc I don't have, peculiarly, is Hard Boiled. Is probably his most famous. What do they call the ballet action genre?
Heroic
I don't have that. Was it?
Heroic Bloodshed.
Heroic Bloodshed. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. I don't have that one. When I searched and searched, I must have had it at some stage, but I can't find it. But what I do have are 3 of his most well-known films. I'll go in order of preference, I think. We'll go with this one here, which, I mean, just look at that cover. Look at that cover there, for those of you who can see the cover. This is Bullet in the Head. This is the extended version. I mean, if anyone who knows Bullet in the Head knows that there's several different versions you can get. This is the longest version that exists. And looking at the back of it, it must have come from no copying allowed. Look at that, NTSC, MPEG 2. My God, unbelievable. It's come from Megastar Video Distribution. It's come from
PC DVD-ROM.
Yeah, Cantonese amount. It's probably come from a defunct website, HD Asia or something like that. I don't know. I forget now. But certainly, I would love to see this given some treatment. I mean, that's a heroically violent film. The extended version is perhaps a bit too long. Certainly towards the last car chase when he's hammering home the brotherly, got to look after my brother, is perhaps a tad too long. But that needs to be seen. Then we'll go to this one here, The Killer. Now, The Killer is an awesome film. Made a star. He was obviously most well known for Hard Boiled, but here Chow Yun-fat, he was a blistering star in this film, and absolutely the first scene, putting the guns in the pots and he's dancing and he goes, oh my God, I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, a DVD, because for digitally restored and remastered on DVD. This needs to come out on Blu-ray.
Glorious minimum 525p.
Minimum Blu-ray for that one.
I would say that I really had hopes because I think Eureka, I mean, if I can fish out and actually show a disc on here, Eureka released Wild Search, which is Chow Yun-fat, Ringo Lam. I had hopes that it meant that Eureka were going to get on the kind of Chow Yun-fat bandwagon and start going through all this back catalogue and releasing them. But
so why do we think this is then? So I mean, let's be honest, right? We're not talking about films that are unheard of here, are we? We're talking about,
I think it must be rights.
That's and it's just so frustrating, because how do you see a way through that? You've got the likes of 88 films releasing God knows the most obscure chop socky films from the 60s and 70s, and yet there are films that with the reputation of these that are stuck in limbo.
Where's my A Better Tomorrow trilogy? Where is it?
It's right here at my house on DVD.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't understand how it works.
It's a real shame.
It is a real shame, and I think we talk about seeing Kurosawa in 4K, but actually there are quite a few we kind of like on Blu-ray. I love Mikitano, in case anyone didn't guess.
Oh, that's a set.
Look at it, isn't it, eh? Look at it. It's actually, believe it or not, although this is mostly written in Chinese, it does actually have an English translation on this side, which is a paradigm shift for Hong Kong cinema. Look at that. And it was indeed. Was it not?
One of the worrying things about some of these Hong Kong films is to get all political here, with Hong Kong moving back over to China, there's been a lot of chatter on some forums recently about some of the Hong Kong films made under British rule, shall we say, are being slowly shoved to one side and forgotten about, trying to rewrite the history. You've got to hope that these are, that's not going to happen here, and certainly not to films like this. But like you say, it's mystifying that films of this stature don't get quality releases.
It's got to be. There's got to be a rights thing, but I don't know how it works. But as I mentioned, I find the same with Kitano. I mean, some of his a bit like Eureka released this Chow Yun-fat film, but not some of his more famous films. Kitano got picked up. Third Window Films released a bunch of really beautiful Blu-rays in lovely box sets with slip cases. I mean, the sets together look tremendous. But some of his best films, they weren't amongst them, and they weren't given the same treatment. And actually, I think for ages you could only import things like Violent Cop, Boiling Point, and Sonatine, which were amongst his best films. Yeah. And one of the ones I still can't get is on Blu-ray is Brother, which I have here right up against my chin so you can see it, which I imported the Blu-ray from Germany, which I thought was a fine move, because actually, although it's Takashi Kitano, it's actually set with Omar Epps in LA, so a lot of it's in English. So I was like, it should be fine if I pick up the German release. Oh no. Oh no. About 50% of the movie's in Japanese. No, and there's no subtitles. There's no English subtitles. So and I have watched it because I like the film that much, but it is let's say frustrating. Yeah. That you have to tolerate these things just to see some of your favorite movies. I think they could do with some better releases. So it's not just 4K. We want the Blu-rays out there.
Yeah, Blu-rays. That'll be. Thank you very much, sir. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
There's a fair few out there. I've got a whole pile of stuff here that has been released and that I like. But I don't. How are we for time? We've got a few minutes. I want to talk about two.
You can do two, okay? Simon.
I can do two. Yeah. I can do two. Okay. I'm going to start off with this one here. Nice. You know that one, Mark?
Yeah, I do.
So this is a French film originally released as Grave, known most people as Raw, as it is in this title here. Now you can see clearly from this disc, this isn't a UK disc. This has again come from Germany, and I got this. Oh crikey! Must have been about 4 years ago. And I wanted it on Blu-ray. You can get it on DVD in this country, no problem whatsoever. But I wanted the Blu-ray. Of course, you want the Blu-ray because that was the best at the time. So I had to go to Germany to get that. Now, this does have a UK release, and it came out in April of this year. What? I've had this for 4 years. It's the same. I mean, it's not the special edition, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles on it that the UK version has. But, I've had that. and I've watched it and I've loved it for 4 years before the UK's were allowed to see it. Perhaps we were too, I don't know, airy-fairy. We couldn't take the graphic violence and the eating of the chicken and the chewing of the fingers. Maybe we couldn't stand that. I don't know. But anyway, so that's that one there that I've had to get it from Germany, the only place. And the other one that I have to mention, that I would love to see a few more Blu-ray releases of this guy, Stephen Chow, because I think it's one of the greatest sports films of all time.
Soccer, yeah.
Shaolin Soccer. I mean, what a brilliant film. I personally think it's his best film. I love it. But and this has got two versions. This particular version has got the two versions: the director's cut and the theatrical version. The director's cut being the far superior cut, of course. Genius, absolute genius. I don't suppose we'll ever get to see that in 4K, which is a real shame. It looks a bit ropey on Blu-ray.
I was going to say, imagine those CG effects in 4K. Ouch.
But I love it. Pure anime, isn't it?
It is brilliant.
You never know what'll come to 4K these days. You cannot predict what they pick, just like it is for Blu-ray. And in fact, there are a bunch of suggestions for what people would like in 4K from the chat, which I will decide to return to. Haneke films, including Hidden, Man from Nowhere, the Zatoichi box sets, and does segue nicely into another one of my favorite Kitano films when he did Zatoichi, and Ichi the Killer.
Ichi the Killer,
that was one of Mark's early extremes.
And I've got that upstairs somewhere as well.
The Infernal Affairs trilogy, which came out, I think Tartan did a Blu-ray for it.
Yeah.
And so these are all suggestions for 4K. I would love to revisit that in 4K, but I bet you any money that Departed will hit 4K before Infernal Affairs goes anywhere near it. And you know, I love DiCaprio and I love Scorsese, but Infernal Affairs is a far superior movie.
Infinitely better.
So anyone who's seen The Departed and likes it should go out and watch Infernal Affairs, because it's better. And then Infernal Affairs 2 is great too. I haven't got as much time for the third one, but yeah, go out and find the Blu-rays. Those are some great suggestions in the chat. So we've got just enough time to take a look at what's coming soon in this month, actually. So let's run the ident for coming soon, please.
If you'd like to support the AV Forums podcast on a regular basis, then why not become a patron? Head over to patreon.com/AV Forums to sign up. You can also make a one-off donation through the Super Chat or via streamlabs.com/AV Forums. All donations help us to improve the website and the podcasts. Thank you to all our supporters.
Well, our very own Andy Bassett has the eternally thankless task of compiling and updating the never-ending list of titles, new and old, that are being
Lord's
added
work he does.
Yeah, he does.
Work.
Added to countless, almost innumerable streaming services. And we haven't even got HBO Max yet, and Paramount Plus, and all of the others that are coming to your shoulders, Andy. He is the Radio Times of AV Forums.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So let's have a look at what tickles our fancy for November. On Sky, we've got Jeff Daniels' American Rust, Mads Mikkelsen's Riders of Justice, Juliette Lewis in Yellow Jackets, The Return of Dexter, and Bruce Willis in Trauma Center. Do any of those tickle your fancy, Simon? You can say no and we'll move on.
Well, Dexter intrigued me just because I love the series and then it ended so badly. So it would be interesting to know what they do and where they go.
Will they give it a decent ending?
Well, it needs a decent beginning, doesn't it? Otherwise, who the hell's going to turn it on? I don't know. Of that lot, that would probably be the only one that I might.
I've heard Riders of Justice, Mads Mikkelsen. It's supposed to be very good.
What I will say, Kaz, is your reviews of Bruce Willis films are more entertaining than the films themselves.
There's another one coming. There's another one coming.
So I have no interest in watching that Willis film, but I have an interest in you watching it and then you writing about it, please.
Oh, no, I knew this would happen.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. On Disney, we've got Jungle Cruise and Shang-Chi, but more importantly, Hawkeye and Peter Jackson's epic Beatles Get Back documentary. Do any of those? I don't think you're interested, are you, Mark? Not really. None of those. No, will it?
well, the Beatles documentary, yes.
Yeah.
But in terms of the films, well, I've seen Shang-Chi and, Jungle Cruise. It'll get watched. I'm more interested in the little films that they sneak out that don't get the fanfare. And for me, yes, Kaz, I'm going to talk about it. Michael Mann's The Insider. That's sneaking out onto Disney Plus in
We're
November.
going to have to talk about The Keep if you talk about The Insider.
Well, do you know what? If The Keep was on there, I would be talking about it. Release The Keep. No, the Insider for me is Mann's best film. There you go.
Wow.
You can take your heat and you can,
I will
you
take
want.
heat. Yes.
Take your heat.
And
I am voting for The Insider. It's superb. Russell Crowe's best performance as well. There you go. Just to keep the controversy going.
I don't think that's as controversial. Not as controversial as saying it's better than Heat, but
What can I say? So yeah, The Insider, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's absolute, superbly tense story of a real life situation, which I'm sure was actually nothing like it was depicted in the film whatsoever. But hey,
Mann had a great run of films. He really did. I don't know where Black Hat came from, but he had a great run of films back.
Public Enemy should have given us some warning, to be fair.
Yeah, I could tolerate that more than Black Hat, but I could tolerate that more as like a bit of a blip. But when Black Hat came along, it was like really trying to skew your head sideways and think, was there a good movie in there somewhere?
No. And the answer is no.
On Amazon, we've got another Liam Neeson film. I mean, he makes as many as Willis, but they're actually watchable.
Yeah.
So The Marksman is coming to Amazon. Third season of Doom Patrol is coming to Amazon Stars. I love Doom Patrol.
I love it. It's great.
It's a bit Legion, it's a bit Titans, it's all crazy.
Yeah.
Tim Dalton, fabulous in it.
They're all brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It's a very unusual.
It's bonkers, actually.
It is bonkers.
That second season was.
It is. Yeah. Anyone interested in something a bit different from the usual superhero stuff?
Yeah.
Check out Legion. Check out Doom Patrol. They're where it's at. It's tremendous. Also, Wheel of Time. Does anyone here have anything to say about Wheel of Time? Come on.
Wheel of Fortune.
It's fantasy guff in it. Orcs and elves and goblins and stuff.
All right. You're reviewing it, Mark.
Oh, please.
And we got the third and maybe last season of Hannah as well. So I don't know whether anyone's but me has been keeping up with it, but you've seen them all, both seasons. Yeah. I thought it's enjoyable. It's not nowhere near the film.
It's different. They've eked out that story.
They have.
But it's okay. I mean, it's going somewhere very different now, isn't it? So
it is. Yeah.
They've broken out. They're off in the woods. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's okay.
They're having a jolly lovely time in the woods.
They are.
Oh, well, good.
Picnics and ginger ale. It's lovely.
No. Apple have got, as usual, a very small amount of stuff. But to be honest, after doing Foundation and Invasion, I'm surprised they didn't take a break until next year, because it's like more content than we've known for the whole of 2020. They're releasing Tom Hanks' Finch, I think, end of this week. Sci-fi effort with a dog. It's getting modest reviews.
Wall-E meets I Am Legend. There you go. Done.
They've done that in Doctor Who. It's called K9.
Yep. I'm sure it'll be.
Aren't we a cynical bunch to that? Oh, come on.
I'm sure it'll be very good. And Hanks is clearly enjoying his time with Apple. But yeah, let's see what that's like. And also The Shrink Next Door, which is Paul Rudd and
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, thank you. Playing serious-ish roles, but I'm sure it'll be quite funny at the same time.
They'll be in their underpants by episode 2.
Netflix have got the big hitters, although I still have my doubts seriously about Red Notice. I've seen Six Underground, and I love the cast of Red Notice, but really, I really hope it proves me wrong. Really, really do, because I do love that cast.
I'm predicting a trusty Tom Davis 4 out of 10. That's what the crystal ball is saying.
Halle Berry's also doing Bruised, where she gets bruised, and there's a Cowboy Bebop adaptation that Tom's going to be taking a look at, which
that might be interesting.
Yeah, it might be fun. And
worth it for John Cho's hair.
There's going to be another season of Star Trek Discovery. I mean, it's what we've all been waiting for.
No,
what is her hair going to look like now?
I give up after one episode. It's just
yeah. I want the other Star Trek show. Give me the other Star Trek show.
What, the real one?
What, Voyager?
No, the new
the Orville.
No, the new.
You're talking about
one.
Lower Decks, are you?
No, the new one. They haven't released it yet. Strange New Worlds, or something like that. It's called, isn't it?
They're all going to be rubbish.
This spin-off. Well,
what we want is the next generation in 4K. That's what we really want. They've done a fantastic Blu-ray versions of it, didn't they? Remastered it. That was awesome. 4K. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Did they shoot it on film, or they didn't shoot it on
film?
tape?
That's film. Yeah.
Oh, it will look good then.
Oh, you'll see all. In HD, it's bad enough to see all the sets stuck together with gaffer tape, and that'd be 4K. It'll be awesome.
I think we've done justice to various different world cinema releases today, and
absolutely
4K. So we have our podcast competition. To win a copy of Akira Kurosawa's Kagemusha on Blu-ray, use the following question to select the correct answer. And I'm always nice with my questions, but you have to probably listen in. Kagemusha is often given the subtitle The Shadow Warrior, as this is the literal meaning of Kagemusha. So the question is, what does Kagemusha mean? Okay. Please become a patron for perks like involvement with our hosted content, sweet deals on merch, and exclusive competitions. Sweet deals, and those exclusive competitions. There are some.
Oh, yes.
That's it for the AV Forums Movies podcast this week. My thanks to Mark Costello.
Adios, muchachos.
And Simon Crust.
Guten Tag.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the channel. You can hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when we publish our live streams, product reviews, and more. If you're listening at your leisure, you could leave us a 5-star rating or
please
6 stars. Try for 6 stars on whichever service you're using. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and bookmark avforums.com for the latest reviews, news, and videos. I'm Kaz Harlow. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week for our weekly podcast on Wednesday.